Welcome to the Embrace Strength podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Crocker. I am an experienced trainer and active life professional. I work with people who are struggling with nagging pain to get back to the activities they love without fear of re-injury. This podcast is here to educate and provide value to you on all things health, fitness, staying active, and personal development. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to the pod. This is episode number 99, actually. I usually don't say the podcast episodes, but I might start saying them, and episode 99 feels special. So I'm going to mention that it's episode number 99. The next episode is episode 100, obviously, but that is a pre-recorded episode, so I didn't even realize that one was going to be episode 100. But regardless, this is super cool that I've published this many podcast episodes at this point. This is the weekly recap, episode 3. So it is episode 3 out of 52 of the weekly recaps. In case you missed it, I have started releasing a weekly recap every single Friday, and I'm going to do that for 1 year. And what these episodes are just weekly recaps. What's going on in my world behind the scenes, how the week has been, any lessons that I'm learning, or things that I'm going through. So let's just dive into it. I am really excited about this week. A lot has happened. There's a lot of emotions floating around, and it's the week before my period. If you are a woman, you know. And so I always joke around to my friends that there's always like at least a monthly breakdown, and it usually happens the week before your period. And so that's definitely happened to me this week, alongside of some really exciting news for us as a family that we've been waiting on since January. So basically since January, we have been in this holding pattern. My husband has been in the works applying for a specific job, and it involves a move back to North Carolina. And we are so stoked. We have wanted to move back to North Carolina, and it was just a matter of having an opportunity to do so. North Carolina is where I met my husband. We both loved living there, loved the different areas, and we're so stoked to be moving back. I'm not going to say the specific city on this podcast because there could be a creep listening to this. So if you are curious what part of North Carolina, you can just send me a DM on Instagram, and if you're not a total stranger and creep, then I will let you in on the secret. It is a different city than I was living in North Carolina previously. So, but still, whatever, I'm not going to say anymore. But we're so excited to move back to North Carolina. I'm so excited to ditch winter. 3 winters in Western New York has definitely been more than enough. I've seen enough snow to last the rest of my lifetime. I am ready to be living in the South where 1 inch of snow shuts everything down, and more sun. I told my husband that I'm not going to take the sunshine for granted when we move back down there, because that is definitely like one of the biggest, one of the hardest things about living somewhere where there's a long winter is just the lack of sunlight. And I did not realize how much it really impacts you until living up here. So we are really stoked to be moving. And another thing that makes this move exciting is that we have plans to just stay. And we have both moved around a lot. I've moved a ton over the past 10 years, and I am ready to I'm ready to not move. And so that is another part of what makes this move exciting, is like a totally different feeling and intention of like, oh, okay, we're moving and moving to stay. And that just feels really good. We're going to get to like not be living in an apartment anymore, which is really exciting. And yeah, so really, really stoked for the upcoming move. Now, with that being said, having that news, we got this news on Monday, so that really like set things into motion for the week in terms of like, okay, this is happening and it's happening within 1 month. And so you know that making a big move, and you may or may not have like done a cross-country move before. I've done multiple cross-country moves at this point, but there's always a bunch of tiny little life tasks that have to get done before you move. Like I had to get the dogs into the vet this week, and when you work from home and run your own business, like, yes, you can technically like do things whenever you want, but to go do an errand is at least 2 hours out of your day. And so adding in these vet appointments that took like 3 to 4 hours out of my day for 2 days this week. And so that was like really stressful, along with like looking at potential rental houses to move into. That was a whole nother like rabbit hole that was like stressful, especially when you have 2 dogs. And so like that was another just added thing on top of my plate this week. And the side of business that not a lot of people talk about is how difficult it can be to be the everything in your business and go through a huge life shift. When you have your own business, there's no PTO. There's no like, oh, I'm taking a personal day to get shit done. There's none of that. It's like all on you. You are everything. And you have to be able to hold so much more when you also are navigating a big life change. I'm trying to reframe this as being grateful because this is the first move that I've done where I'm not losing half of my income due to in-person work. So I am really grateful for that. But that has made this week pretty stressful, just trying to figure out how am I going to fit in all of these things, because in addition to, having this big life shift coming up, I am also shifting quite a bit in my business. I'm restructuring my group program, Mobility Makeover, and that's involving me to do a lot of tasks on the back end to start the shift and prepare for different things. And so yeah, that is basically how this week has been. What I decided today is that I am going to need to adjust to a 7-day work week for a bit of time, because I need to give myself permission to work half days on Saturday and Sunday in order to get everything done, or things just aren't going to get done. And there is something to be said for being able to drop into your work on the weekends and not have to worry about communicating with your clients. If you are a coach and business owner, you totally get what I'm saying. Like, it can be difficult to focus on projects fully when you are also talking to your clients throughout the week. So I have specific creative tasks that I am saving for Saturday and Sunday, just because that's where I can fit them in, and these things need to get done. And another thing that I am trying to do with this move this time around is give myself as smooth of a transition week as possible. And every other previous move I've done this wrong. I've been like, oh, it's fine. I can still like manage my full workload the week that we move. And then my house, we're not able to unpack the house for it takes like a month to unpack because of work. And I want to unpack as soon as possible when we are there. So what I'm trying to do is get ahead on a lot of work tasks so that the week of the move, all I have to show up for is my meetings that I have planned, which are very minimal at this point, but there are some things that I just won't be able to move. But in terms of getting ahead on my programming work, getting ahead on content creation, making sure emails are going out, making sure podcasts are going out, all those. There are like so many creative tasks that I do throughout the week. I just want to not have to worry about that week of the move so that we can unpack and settle in as soon as possible. But yeah, so I was thinking, a thought that I had this morning was like, sometimes when you're an online business owner, it can feel like you have multiple personalities because you're wearing all the hats. Like one moment you're having to be, you're full on coach mode, coaching your clients and creating workouts for them and whatever. The next moment you're having to drop into creative mode where you're creating things. The next mode you're having to go into like CEO mode where you are like looking at all your numbers and planning ahead and what does this upcoming month look like? We're wrapping up quarter one. How did quarter one go? Like, things like that. And with all of that being said, this is the hard that I choose every day of the week versus the other options. And basically, whether you do run your own business or you're not, it is hard either way. So it's a matter of choosing your different hard. And everything is not all sunshine and rainbows and butterflies when you run your own online business. And I feel like a lot of people think that it is, and it's just not. And so yeah, a lot of different feelings this week. And so I've just been navigating it all, trying to not go insane. I've been trying to work in things into my day that will help calm and regulate my nervous system in between those like really brain intensive tasks, like going for a walk or coloring some of a coloring page or something like that in between my work blocks. And I think that is helping. So I'm just going to keep implementing that. And I'm really trying to avoid trying to stay focused for 6 hours straight, because sometimes I can get in a mode like that. And that's not good either, because then I am like so drained the next day, I can barely do anything. So I'm trying to stick to 90-minute to 2-hour work blocks and then giving myself a 20 or 30-minute brain break where I walk, stretch, color, something like that before diving into the next task, and trying to keep those tasks in the work block like in the same section of my brain is the best way I can describe it, right? Like creating content is a totally different part of your brain than like doing client work. So trying to set myself up for better success there as well. Anyways, so this is my weekly recap. That's pretty much all I got for you. I say like pretty much all I got, but I feel like that was a lot. So anyways, that is all I got for you this week. I'm really excited for what is to come, and things are going to be interesting over the next 4 to 6 weeks. So that is all I got. Talk to you next week.